high school next fall, but this is about going to college. So by the time we leave here, I want to answer all your questions. I want you to leave a satisfied on what you have to do so you can get right on it as soon as you get to high school. Okay? We will have some questions at the end of the presentation, so don't raise your hand in the middle of the presentation. Okay? Before we start, I just want to give you a little general overview of what we're going to talk about. NCAA, I'm sure you guys have all heard of that before, Division 1, 2, and 3. When I talk about the NAIA, a lot of you guys probably have never heard of that before. You get to know what NAIA is. NJCAA, anybody know what that is? Junior college. We'll talk about the recruiting process. We'll talk about the eligibility center, where you have to be able to play. Believe it or not, you do have to have good grades to play soccer in college. And we'll talk about the NAIA clearinghouse. It's the same thing as the eligibility center. Before we get started, I do want to point out a few things that I read online the other day, and I thought was pretty funny. A lot of the parents are, not very proactive because they assume that they're paying money for your kids to play soccer in their club. Therefore, the coaches and the club is responsible for getting that player an athletic scholarship. So one of the things that I read, I guess you could call it a myth, which is what I did call it. Myth number one, college coaches will find me if I'm good enough to play on their team. Believe that or not, a lot of people think that way. A lot of people think I'm good, it doesn't matter, I don't have to do anything, it will come out, it will find me, and I'll be able to play. No sir, it's not going to happen, okay? One of the things that us college coaches complain about is our recruiting budget. It's extremely small, okay? You make one trip on the East Coast and come back and you're done, your budget is over. So we don't go all around looking for college players. We do wait, and hopefully they will contact us, or we contact club coaches to help refer players to us. But you have to be proactive and get yourself out there as well. So that myth is not true. Myth number two, I should pay a recruiting or scouting service, video company, or a sports resume company to help me get a scholarship. You can do that stuff on your own. You don't need to do any of that. I think it says if you have extra money, you want to pay somebody to help you improve the skills, i.e. make you pro soccer. You guys know what that is? You can give some money to help you improve your skills. You don't have to do any of that. You can do that yourself. A lot of our players these days and parents during our soccer games have cameras on the side recording the game. You can put a little clip together, no longer than 5 minutes, and just send it out to a coach. Try not to put any music on it, if you will, because sometimes the music do get annoying to us coaches. This is my favorite one. It is my club/high school coach's job to help me get a scholarship. You're not paying us enough to do that. It's not our job to do that, okay? It's your job, not ours. And finally, full ride scholarship. We hear this term all the time, full ride scholarship. Do you guys know what a full ride scholarship is? A full ride scholarship is pretty much, you're going to go to school for 4 years and not pay a dime. That's a full ride scholarship. I can almost guarantee you not more than 2 people in this room that have a full ride scholarship to go to college. That includes the parents, obviously. At all. Only 0.3% of students win enough money to cover their cost of attendance. 0.3 of everybody that's going to college every year. That's a pretty low number. So if you ask me, study. Study hard, get good grades. It might help you minimize the cost of going to college. So now that you know that's all a myth, you do have to have a plan going into high school. If you're planning on playing college, you gotta have a plan. And before I get into that plan, I would like to introduce you to 4 players in our club currently that will be going to college. And these players are going to a Division 1 schools, we're going to NAIA schools, and was going to a Division 3 school. Mikey's not here, but he's actually in talks right now with a Division 2 school. I just want you to listen to them and hear them, what they went through as far as the process, things that they had to do, and then things that I have to do as a coach. I was fortunate enough to coach all of them. So things that I had to do as a coach, I didn't have to do much. They had to do most of the work. I just want you to listen to them for about 5 5 to 10 minutes, and then once they're done, I'll get out of the way and tell you more about how you can build a good plan so that if you are planning on playing college soccer, you'll know what to do. So, gentlemen, we'll start with Luke. Luke really has been in our club since U11.
Yeah.
U11, U10, U11. Luke is actually going to go play Division I at Eastern Illinois University, and he will tell you about his recruiting process.
Yeah, so as you heard, I'm going to Eastern Illinois. It's about 30 minutes south of Champaign, 12,000 kids. So first thing I started off doing my recruitment process is my cousin coaches for JAG, so I called him and asked, what do I need to do to get recruited for college? And the first thing he told me was, call your coach, get with your coach, and ask him what level you think you can play at. So I heard that and I thought, I'm not going to do that. I want to play Division I no matter what. But I would recommend doing that unless you have that obsession with getting to your goal. I would recommend talking to your coach and seeing what level he thinks you can go at, and if you would take that advice or not, it's up to you. So the second thing I did was I made a list of schools that I would be potentially interested in, and that's going to be like a rough list. I made like 20 schools. Eastern Illinois was not on that list, so just be ready for anything that happens. Like you could find a school that pops up out of nowhere and just explore the option. So going to showcases every year, just like twice a year with Plymouth Rain. I would email every college coach that was there. So like, I mean, go to the college list and see like ones you're interested in. So like, email them, say where you're playing at, like what your interests are, what your grades are, stuff like that, and just ask them to come watch you. I'd say like your strengths as a player also, and your number and your jersey color. So that helps them find you. You want to make their job as easy as possible. So as far as Eastern Illinois went, I made a list my junior year. Junior year is really when you want to get going on it, because senior year you get to the end. So junior year I made a list of probably like 5 IB camps that I was going to go to during the summer and winter. And so those are really important. They just give you a chance to solely play in front of coaches. So I went to a camp out in Pontiac. It was through Exact Sports. I recommended it. It worked well. So Eastern Illinois saw me. I went up to the coach. So that's something you also got to do. You got to be proactive in what you're doing. If you're going to be one of the guys that's just like, I'll let my playing do the talking, then they don't really like that. You got to go up to them and you got to talk to them. You got to go after it. So I went up to the coach. I had no idea who he was. I introduced myself and I said, what did you think of me? And he said he liked me a lot. And he said that he'd like to get me on campus. So he emailed me a date that I could come to one of their camps. So I went to their ID camp. It was about 3 days long in the summer. And I just played there. The coach already knew me from the camp here in Detroit. So I went there and played. And so, as you always know, grades are important and everything. I was talking to him one day and he was like, what are your grades? You're playing pretty well. So I told him 3.83 with a 29 GPA, and I mean 29 ACT. And you could just see his face like right now, like, oh, I could actually get a player that has good grades. So you could actually see the excitement in his face when you tell him you have good grades. So really work on that. Really don't slack off. My parents would always tell me that, like going to work out or going to study. I chose working out a lot, but you gotta study. So he told me, very interested, go home, take it all in. I did have other schools interested in me, just a couple of D2 schools around here, one in West Virginia. So I looked at my options. I knew I wanted to play D1, and I decided that was the right fit. I liked the coach. He had a good vision for the team. He knew where he was going with the team and who he needed to take the team where he wanted to go. And I also was looking for like a good culture with the team. I wasn't looking for guys that were just like looking to drink and party on the weekends. I wanted competitors. So I looked for that on my official visit, whether these guys were just going crazy or whether they took seriously. So another thing I would recommend is going to as many visits as you can. So on my way to Eastern, I got an email as I was driving down there from some small college in Illinois, and my dad was like, "We might as well stop. We've got time." So just going to as many visits as you can helps you realize what you want and what you don't want in school. So it was in a nice town, and I realized that I wanted to be in a nice town. So that's what benefited me, just from a random spur of the moment email. So just go to as many visits as you can and realize what you want and what you don't want in a school, in a soccer program, and things like that. If the coach wants to get you on campus, I'd take it right away. And just, even if you have no interest in the school, at least you learn what you like and what you don't like in the program. So just after that, he told me to take it all in, so I did, and I decided it was the right fit. So I committed, and he told me that I texted my friend who played D1 at Purdue. He played basketball, and he said, "Good job, now the hard work starts." And I was like, "Are you serious?" So you gotta work hard, and then you gotta work harder. It doesn't stop. So yeah, that's it.
Well done. So this is where as far as, by the way, Luke, when he first started playing in our club, he played on our B team. Okay, he tried out, he made the B team. And of course, he had a little, he was a bit upset that he made the B team, but he's very competitive. And he knew with maybe some hard work, a couple of years, he definitely made the A team. And I think, how many years? 1 year in the B team, eventually he was on the A team. He played every position on the B team, center back, forward, you name it. Eventually keep on the A team, and he's now one of our better players, one of our top leading scorer. Very shocked that he can stand here and speak to you guys, because he doesn't say much to me at all. But where did I come in as far as Lukey's process of finding the school? So after he talked to the coach at Eastern Illinois, I got a phone call from that coach that day. He was fired up. The one thing I like about the coach is he didn't ask me not one question about Luke as a player. Not one single question. Because he's seen him on the soccer field. So, I mean, he made up his mind that he was a good player. All he asked me was all character questions. Like, is this a guy who's going to come in and ruin my locker room? Is this a guy who will come in and fit in well with the rest of the boys? We help him build this program. I believe he was a fairly new coach coming to the program. So keep that in the back of your mind also. You don't have to be just a good player to play in college. If your attitude stinks, nobody wants you in the locker room. So again, Luke, thank you very much for letting us know. Now we're going to hear from Aiden. Aiden is actually going to Kalamazoo Division 3.
So yeah, I'm going to Kalamazoo College, they're D3. They're like about 1,500 kids, and they're in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So my recruiting process was a little bit different than Luke's. So first, I started out by making a list of colleges that I wanted to go academically. I didn't even look at soccer. And Kalamazoo wasn't even on that list because at that time they didn't have my desired major. And so once I made that list, I met with Samson, and we discussed which of those schools would be best for me in terms of soccer. After that, I emailed, I'd say half of the coaches, or most the coaches that I was most interested in playing for on that list, with an email that I compiled of my grades, my soccer accomplishments, and other things about me. And then after that, I just went on with playing in seasons, and then before we went to tournaments or showcases, I would email the coaches again, send them my schedule, let them know when I was playing. And so I think it was my junior year, I started getting interest from schools. So my first one was Alma, and then Albion, and then University of Findlay, and then University of Indianapolis. And so all those schools they're good schools, but for me, I was really looking to go to a highly prestigious academic school because that's very important to me. I want to go to grad school. And so I didn't really find what I was looking for. But I still did tour the campuses, which is something that I recommend, because you get to figure out what you like in campuses, because you can find, oh, I like this when I went to Findlay, and I like this when I went to Elgin. And then you can really compile of what you think is your dream school. And so after that, so I had interest from those schools, and I went to a few ID camps. And I can say that I would not recommend going to a big ID camp. So I went to a Michigan State ID camp. It wasn't great because you feel like you're getting lost among all the other players there. And realistically, I know at least for me, there was no chance of me playing at Michigan State. And so it wasn't really worth it, I would say. And then I went to the Allegheny College ID camp, which was great because there wasn't that many players, and they can tell because they invite the players that actually come to the camp, and so they can already know they had a real interest in you as a player when you go there. And so I went to the Albion camp. The next day I got a call from the coach saying that he liked me and that he could see me playing in the team. And so I went for a visit there, and I said, okay, Albion is one of my major options. And so I wanted to have 3 major options that I could, or schools that I could play for and academically fit, for me. And then next, Alma, so they actually their assistant coach contacted me after a game that we played against the Rush. And he told me that he's been watching me play for a while, and that they really liked the way that I played. And so I visited there. I didn't really like their campus because it was basically in the middle of nowhere. It was cornfields, and then Alma, and then cornfields. And that just really wasn't something that I wasn't looking for, which is good again, because if I wouldn't have visited there, I wouldn't have known, that's not a good place for me to go. And so at that point, those were my 2 main options. And then I'd heard of Kalamazoo College before as being a good school, but I looked there and it didn't have my exact major. But so I contacted someone at admissions, and they kind of gave me a plan for something that because I wanted to go into something medical, and so they gave me a plan that I could do to become for pre-med. And so they organized a schedule that I could take, and they said we can get you everything that you need to become a doctor or a physical therapist or whatever you want to be. And I was like, that's pretty cool because that's pretty much second to Michigan in terms of education in the state. And so at that point, I knew Kalamazoo was where I wanted to go academically. That was my #1 choice. I just didn't know if the soccer was an option. And so Coach Shabazz, their coach, I met with him when I went on a visit to their campus, and he's a great guy. He's basically like Samson. He's a really good guy, lots of good ideas for the team, and his mindset is in the right place, and he's just a really good guy. And so after that, it was a very quick process for me in terms of committing to the college because I already knew that I wanted to go there. So I went to a Western IE camp. He saw me play for about 45 minutes. He called me on Sunday, and I committed on Monday. Which is quick, I know, but that's where I visited there. I talked to him. I knew that's where I wanted to go. The soccer part was there, and so I committed. But I don't think any of it would have happened if I wouldn't have worked hard and spent a lot of time researching the colleges that I wanted to go to, because research is probably the most important part of your process, which I know doesn't sound right, but it really is. Because you have to find the college that's right for you academically first. At first, I didn't even look at colleges for soccer. I only looked academically. And so, for me, that's the biggest part is academics. And so after I knew where I wanted to go academically, it was easy, just as long as the soccer part worked out. And so yeah, that's my advice, is just make sure that you work hard academically and get good grades, because that'll help you get a lot of money, which is another reason why I went to Kalamazoo, because they're normally a very expensive college, but I had enough academics to get myself a pretty good academic scholarships, because D3 can't give athletic scholarships, and so that's one of the main reasons that I went there too. And other than that, I can't.
What was your GPA?
My GPA was 3.9, and I had a 32 on my ACT.
I was smart. Aiden might be mad at me for this. We're trying to get out here and get the class. I promise. Aiden did not make his high school varsity team until when, Aiden?
I didn't make my junior year. The coach thought I was too small.
Yes, junior year. Okay.
Size
But
matter in the
it
United
didn't
States.
stop him. It didn't stop him at all from playing soccer at the next level. When he compiled the list, he emailed me. It was 10 schools, and we met and went over it. And I have to be honest with my players. I have to say, you know what, you can't play here. They're pretty good. You're going to go in there, maybe you won't play until your junior or senior year. If that's something you want to do, go ahead and do it. But I think you should find a school where you want to go and make an immediate impact in your freshman year, maybe get a couple of minutes here and there. You see there's a trend there for Luke. He's like, I want to play D1. I'm going to look for a school that has a D1 school first, and then I will see if they have the program I want to go into second. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, that's his plan. That's what he wanted to do. Aiden is, I want to see what school has my program first, and if the soccer comes, so be it. Okay? So that's the trend there. Last person we hear from, and then I'll continue with the presentation, is Andrew Cozen. Andrew Cozen is committed to Siena Heights, and it's an NAIA school. So now we heard from a Division I player, a Division III player, now we'll hear from an NAIA player.
So I'm Andrew, and I committed to Siena Heights, which has about 1,200 students. It's a really small college, actually. So basically, I started out just looking for academics in colleges. I didn't really think about playing college soccer, actually. And then I started doing a ton of goalie training with Sasha Skovich, who actually used to work here at the club. And he really got me thinking about college, and it led me to talking to Calvin College, actually. We kind of talked a little bit. I don't think I was forthcoming enough and talking to him enough in order to actually be recruited by them. So the talk kind of fell through, but I had talked to Samson actually too after one of our practices and told him that I was interested in playing college soccer, and he ended up helping me because the Siena Heights coach actually called him and told him that they were interested. So Samson got them my number and everything, and I think that same day, the assistant coach, Coach Lou, actually talked to me on the phone, and the first thing he talked to me about was grades. So I told him I had a 3.5 GPA, and I got a 1260 on the SAT. He seemed pretty happy about that. So academics are one of the most important things, especially with colleges, because D3 can't give any money for athletics. NAIA, you can get both academic and athletic, but usually you're not going to get a ton of athletic money. I ended up getting $5,000 for athletics, and then I got like $10,000 for academics. So academics are really more important than thinking about the athletics. So I started talking to the Siena coach. I decided that it was a school that had the right fit. They had the degree I wanted. It was a smaller school, which is something I wasn't really thinking about. But after going on campus and taking a tour, I really fell in love with everything. And I really liked how everybody seemed to be like a family there, which is something that you only truly see when you go to smaller schools. So I continued to talk with Coach Lou, the assistant coach, and Coach Zid, who was the head coach. And I set up a meeting with the team where I would stay the night at Siena Heights. And so I went over, talked to the team, got to know everybody, and it was a good experience. You got to see all the people that you might be playing with. You got to see the campus, see how the campus works, and it gives you a really good idea about what you want in college, what you want to do at college. And so I had Coach did come to one of my practices, and he was really impressed. He said that I did a good job, and he was really interested still. And things kind of just went from there, and I committed a couple weeks ago.
So the Seattle Heights University coach did call, and he was asking for a different goalkeeper at the time. So I have 2 goalkeepers in the age group, and I said, well, you know, he's not interested in playing college soccer, but I do have another goalkeeper for you that's pretty good, you know, and you might want to take a look at this guy. And he said, oh, who are you talking about? And I introduced Andrew, and he came out and watched one of the training session. And I mean, things happen just like that, okay? So now that you heard from all of these guys, obviously they all had a plan. You gotta have a plan. There's no doubt about it. You have to have a plan. First, you gotta believe that you can play in college, okay? You don't have to believe nobody else can make you believe that. You gotta believe that you can play, and you gotta start working on it, okay? You have to write a letter describing yourself. That's important as well. So the email that's going to go out to the coaches after you compile a list, you're going to list all those things such as your GPA, your graduation year, or your strength and weakness. No, not your weakness. Don't do that. Your SAT score, that good stuff you have. Because coaches, if you're good academically, they get to save money that way as far as giving too much athletic scholarship. They can save that money if you get another student who is not as good as you are. So you got to make sure you list all those things. Again, look up college coaches' address. It's not hard to find. Just Google it. You'll find something and reach out to those coaches. Some people say put a list of 10, 20. It's up to you. You can put as many as you want and reach out to as many as you want. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you got to follow up. You got to be a pest. Don't give them so easily, okay? You got to hear from a coach before you stop contacting that coach. That's how I look at it, okay? If you email a coach, he doesn't respond to you, call him, doesn't respond, email again. Maybe he's going to finally say, hey, I've been busy, or hey, look, I'm not interested. At least now you can cross him off of your, sometimes schools are in the process of switching coaches. Believe it or not, it's so competitive that coaches sometimes lose the job after a season or 2 seasons, and the school is in the process of bringing in new coaches. It takes a long time for a coach to get back to you. So don't be discouraged when a coach doesn't email you right away. Continue to call. And then you got to reach out to your club coaches and high school coaches. I think these guys, at least the guys that are here in our club, the coaches are very proactive. They're willing to help. But again, it's you. It all depends on you. I'm not going to call a guy who's not doing anything and say, hey, buddy, make sure you're working on this thing to get yourself in soccer. And in college, you're going to play soccer. It's not my job. My job is to reinforce your plan, not to come up with your plan. Go to good tournaments and showcases. Some of my favorite showcases is the President's Day, boys and girls at Wixom. Look, it's the amount of coaches that attend that tournament. It's amazing. You go there and you see them all the time. Yeah, there are some times where your game is too late or too early, but at the end of the day, because I feel like most of our kids in this club, in our club, will go to school in this area. Right? So this local tournament makes sense to me as a coach, looking at my players, okay? Not a lot of our guys are going to be leaving here to go play soccer at UCLA or Santa Barbara or whatever you want to call it, Santa Clara. So the President's Day showcase at Tourist Coach Wixom is a little more for me. Stake up, okay? When you make it to the round of 16 and stake up, there are coaches there. Every single time, they're always cool in there. I mean, that depends on your coach. If your team is not good enough to play the stake up, I recommend the coach not putting you in there. But if you guys are good enough to finish the stake up, by all means do it. And ODP showcases. So if you guys don't know what ODP is, Olympic Development Program, Aiden actually participated in that program for a long time. Just a couple of weeks ago, I just got back from taking the 2003 birthday year ODP boys to Chicago, where they play against Wisconsin, Indiana. They played against Illinois, and they were actually, these are 8th graders, and they were actually college coaches grade, 8th graders, believe it or not, okay? I mean, they were there with a pen and a pad, it's that competitive and they're recruiting that early. And I think the boys mentioned it, attend college ID camps, you have to meet the head coaches. Not the parents going there and introducing themselves, let the kids themselves go and introduce themselves to the coaches. I mean, like I said, a coach likes players that are mature, you know, to do that. And then go on a college visit, get to know as many campuses as possible, and especially the students that are currently attending that school, just visit the campus, make sure it's somewhere you want to be, because you are committing for 4 years, well, in some cases 5 years, but you are committing for 4 years to attend that college, so you want to make sure that you're very comfortable in that scene. So the boys talk about what it takes to pick a college, right? First, your major, right? You gotta know what you want to do. Sometimes you're undecided, that's fine. So it can be undecided. You can be undecided for 4 years though. Just for the first year, you can be undecided. And then the size. Personally, I like a small college. I want to do a small school because I don't like big crowds. I just don't. I get nervous. I don't like big crowds. So a small school for me is fun for other people. I like to be in a big school, a big lecture hall. They don't like to be seen or be lost in the crowd. That's something that you have to think about. Environment. Madonna University is Meredith College. Those are all Catholic schools. If you're interested in stuff like that, you can attend. A public or private school, social. These are all things that you need to actually put on a piece of paper before making a decision. Location, distance from home. Some of you guys are homebodies. As a matter of fact, almost everybody in Plymouth are homebodies. No? Okay. So mom was laughing. How far do you want to go away from home? Are you tired of being home with your younger siblings? Do you want to get away, or your parents want to get away? That's up to you. Climate. You know, if you like Michigan weather, Northern Michigan is a good school to go to. Up north, Marquette is another one you want to go to. If you like the sunshine, then you want to go out west to go to school. And then personally, that's my favorite one, financial. When I was picking college, that's the first thing I looked at. Simply because I didn't have money to go to college. So I was looking for a school that can cover the majority of my tuition to go to college. As a matter of fact, I was almost prepared to go to the military because I didn't have money to go to college in the first place until I actually went to open tryout and earned a scholarship to play soccer in college. But I mean, these are all the things that you have to think about. And the one thing I like about Americans is that from the day their kids are born, immediately start putting money aside for when they're old enough to go to college. That's something foreign parents are not very familiar with. They wait until you're old enough to go to college, then they start saving money. But it might be too late for that. But these are all things that you need to think about, both players and parents, before you make that decision. Like Luke said he didn't want to go to, no, I think it was Aiden, he didn't want to go to Albion because it was corn, what do you say, corn farm or whatever? Right. Yeah, so, the soccer program, what are they about? Are they losing a lot? Are they winning a lot? Are they respectful? Okay, it's an NCAA school, it's an NAIA school. Some people like to go to NCAA one because it's they want to brag about it a little bit. You know, others don't care, they just want to play. Okay, the conference and the schedule. Are you traveling a lot? Are you going to warm places? Are you bringing good teams, good fields? Coaching, that should be an important part. You don't want to play for a coach who, you know, who's not looking to make you a better player or a better student, okay? Again, we talk about history and direction. Where is the program going? Is the program going in a dream? Are they rebuilding? Are they already established? And then the current team. So on your visit, usually you will stay with some of the students that are currently on the team. And you can tell by the character if that's the place you want to spend 4 years right away. When I was getting recruited, after I attended community college for 2 years, I visited State University of New York at Buffalo. And my very first visit, you guys are probably too young to know this, but MTV was having a show being shot on campus. And the students that I was staying with immediately took me to that thing, and it was unreal. I mean, I should have never been there. That's not my scene. So now, for me, that was a cue for me. I'm like, I don't want to come here. I mean, this is not what I want to be about. And so believe it or not, I came back and went to Madonna, where it's very quiet. The facility, if you're into stuff like that, right, the workout room, they have a pool, and they have places you can go to hang out, a cafeteria, they have a game room. Those are all things you can think about. The support system, that should be another thing, right? If you're struggling as a student athlete, do they have a place you can go so that you can get tutored? Do you have somebody that can help you get you back on track? And anything in addition to that that you might need to be successful. You got to think about all those things before you make a decision. You don't want to be a student athlete that transfers every year because you're not happy with where you are. So make sure before you make a commitment somewhere that you put all those things into account. So just talking about some of the schools and divisions. So all you guys know that NCAA is Division 1, 2, and 3. And the boys already talked about that. Division 1 is a lot of schools, into the 329 schools. They do offer a scholarship. They have a lot of money to give as compared to Division 2 school. Division 2 offers scholarship, but they're limited to how much they can offer because it's a smaller school. They don't have a lot of money coming in, so it's limited. Division 3, they do not offer scholarship, but they do put a decent package together academically to help you to afford to go to school if you're going to be an athlete. The only reason why they have an athletic program is so that the student alumni experience can be pretty good. So things to think about again, where do you want to go? If you're looking for athletic scholarship, then maybe the D3 school is not for you. You have a good GPA and you want to play, then that's a choice you have to make. NAIA schools. How many NAIA schools in Michigan? Quite a few, right? Believe it or not, Madonna's an NAIA school, pretty good school. I have to look at graduate from there. It's a pretty good school, right? Pretty good nursing program at Madonna. A good business program at Madonna as well. Concordia in Ann Arbor, another good school. There's 3 NAIA schools in Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, I believe. Cornerstone, and Aquinas. Those are all good small schools that are in the NAIA in Michigan. Obviously, your D1 schools are like Michigan State, Oakland University. Those are all D1 schools. D2 schools are like Northwood, I believe, Saginaw Valley State. And the NJCA is a junior college. Schoolcraft College, one of the best junior colleges in the country. Again, not because I went there, but because I know that almost every class you take in Schoolcraft will transfer to any university or college in the country. They're that good, okay? That's a school that has a pretty good soccer program and they've been pretty successful for a long time. The thing I like about community college is, again, remember when I was picking the school, financial was my thing, okay? They can pay for your entire 2 years you're there if you're the right person they're looking for. So that's the way to save money. You don't have the money for the whole 4 years. You can take that route, or you can go to the Schoolcraft, play 2 years, and then transfer and play 2 years at another college, be it NAIA, NCAA, or what have you. So you have choices, okay? It's not just Division 1, okay? That's just a status thing for me if you ask me for most players. Could I have played Division 1? Absolutely, but again, I didn't have any money, so where was creating more money, that's where I would have went. And I think I should mention that there's quite a few players, coaches in our club that went through that route as well, at junior college and then to a 4-year school. So the recruitment process, pretty simple. There are 2 reasons club soccer players do not get recruited. You're not good enough, or the right college coaches who may need their talent have not heard of them. A perfect example is Andrew Kozan, okay? Coach called me, looking for a different player, and I brought him up as a player, and he came out and watched him play and said, you know what, you are the one I'm looking for. It's as simple as that, right? I mean, if you're interested in playing college soccer, and you're a good player, I'm not saying great or excellent, if you're a good player, you can play if you're willing to compromise. Maybe you might not go play at Michigan, just because you might not even see the field. You might be in a team, you might see the field. But you can find a smaller school and still get your degree and enjoy yourself being a student athlete. Some questions to ask the coaches before you start making a decision. How good do you think I am? I don't think any coach in our club will lie to you. to be honest with you. I know I'll tell you straight up, I think you are, okay? What level can I play? What colleges and what college coaches do you know? We know quite a few. I mean, the coaching community is extremely small here in this area. And all the college coaches are very friendly because they're trying to recruit and they know you're a club coach. So they're always very courteous to you. So yeah, if we reach out to them, they'll be happy to respond back to us. Could you prepare a letter of recommendation? Absolutely. Now, there are a couple of coaches in our club where English is not their primary language, okay? That doesn't mean that they cannot write a letter of recommendation for you. I'm going to give you an example of Mickey over here, okay? If you write the letter, send it to Mickey, he can read it, and then sign it, it's just as good, okay? So just because Mickey, his primary language is not English, and you should skip it and find somebody else, especially if he's been your primary coach for so long. So reach out to those coaches, and they will write these letters for you. Those letters go a long way. They go a long way because, again, coaches are very concerned about character. Very concerned about character. And yes, we will be willing to contact college coaches for you, but not just randomly. We're going to need a list. We're going to make sure that you've applied to that school. We're going to make sure that you are interested in that school, and then we'll put in the phone call to the coach and let him know. Because we don't want to call and say, hey, I have this kid, his name is that. We want to call and say, he's already applied, he's already sent you an email, and just call him to follow up on that email. So again, the theme here is you have to be proactive. And we're just going to come in and echo that out a little bit more. We already talked about this, right? Talk to your high school club coach, find the right college, and then communicate to the coaches. Okay. The moment you step foot into high school, and you're a good player in any sport, you are immediately a prospect. Okay? So coaches can start looking at you as young as a freshman. That's the rule. But there are coaches that are looking at you as young as 7th grade these days. There was just an article in the Detroit Free Press that there's a 7th grade basketball player at Country Day that's being recruited by a lot of big schools. 7th grade, just think of that for a second, 7th grade. How old are you in 7th grade, right? 12? That's pretty young. So the coaches are looking. They're looking. They're looking to find the next big thing to help the program grow. So per rule, a Division I school cannot contact you until your sophomore year. So when I mean contact, they cannot send you any camp brochure, they cannot send you any questionnaires, no phone calls, but they can do any of that. Okay? D1 only. D2, D3, NAIA, it's no rule. Okay? I currently coach at Maryville College, NAIA school, and I can contact anybody I want because our rule is not as strict as the NCAA. Junior year, you can start getting all those things. I mean, there's dates, it tells you when, especially for D1. If you're going to a D1 school, you got to be very careful about the rules, because you can get your coach or your potential coach in a lot of trouble. So you got to make sure you follow all those rules. Now, you can always reach out to them, but they cannot reach out to you until whatever date that the NCAA decides the date for them to reach out to you. Again, D3, NAIA, junior colleges, there's no restriction. You can reach out anytime you want. Phone calls is limited based on the sport. D3, again, is no limit. The coach can call you as many times as possible. So if a D1 coach is not calling you 2-3 times a week, it's not because he doesn't like you or not interested. It's because he's following the rule. And if you're looking to play college at D1, D2, or D3, you got to make sure that you know these rules so that you can understand what the recruitment process is like. And then you have to register for the Initial Eligibility Center. I'll tell you what that is in the clearinghouse after the summer after your junior year. These are all important. And your high school counselor, probably and maybe even your AD at high school, a good source of contact with stuff like that. And then again, your senior year, this is when it gets serious, right? Your senior year, you go on visits, right? As many visits as possible. Some visits can be paid for by the school, others can be paid for by you. If you decide to go as many visits as possible, that's up to you. You're paying for it. You can go as many as you want. Something that you need to know again, right? No text messaging. I text message my players all the time, and my recruits. Again, it's NAIA, it's not a sure, but NCAA. They love me, the coach get in a lot of trouble if you're texting him. If you want to talk about the visits, if you're going to visit, unlimited amount of visits, it's at your own expense. Official visit, the school can pay for you. Again, tell you the limit to the number of visits, one per school, you only allow 5 visits in the NCAA, especially Division I, 5 visits. You don't want to lose your eligibility by visiting more than 5. If you do that and you break an NCAA rule, they can contact you and say, for your first year in college, you're not allowed to play any sport. You're going to be a red shirt, so to speak. So this is something that almost everybody who's going to play any sport, not just soccer, will have to go through. It's called a clearinghouse. And the clearinghouse is simple. They want to make sure that you graduate from high school. They want to make sure that you didn't play professional soccer in Europe and then coming here to play college soccer. But just want to make sure that it's fair to everybody who's participating in a sport. And then your national letter of intent, you know, some people say it's legally binding. I say it's not, as long as you can include in that contract that, look, I'm going to verbally say that I'm coming to the school, but I can change my mind later on. I mean, there are some schools where if you sign a letter of intent, you're bound by that. You cannot get out of it, or you can ask them to include that in that letter, so when you sign it, you have a wiggle room out of it. That's also important, because you don't want to be stuck somewhere. Like, for example, you don't want to visit a school and it's all fake, and then you find out that school is actually not where you thought it was, and now you're stuck because you already signed a letter of intent. You want to make sure that you know all that before. So this is why the Eligibility Center is looking at getting your high school graduation, your core courses, your GPA, your test scores, and again, to make sure that you're not a professional player or an ex-professional player in another school. The NJCA is pretty lenient as well. You can have a 2.0 GPA, and it's a single guideline in NCAA, but they're not as strict. So the NAIA, so the schools like Medina and Siena Heights and all those schools, I mean, just like I said, you have to have 2 out of these 3 criteria in order to be eligible to play as a freshman. Okay, you got to have a 2.0 or higher. It's pretty easy to do. I mean, you can sleep in every single class and still get a 2.0. I don't recommend that. You got to graduate in the top half of your graduating class. I see your dad just hit somebody over there. I think he's not in the top half, is he? You better hurry up and get in the top half. And then you have to have an 18 on your ACT or 860 on your SAT. These numbers are changing every year. I guess the kids are getting smarter, so they're making it a little bit more difficult. But these are stuff that, again, if you're applying for schools in any of these governing bodies, whether it's NAIA or NCAA, you have to be aware of these things. You don't want to be shocked when you're excited to go to a school and then you go apply to the eligibility center and you find out that you're not eligible to play, which means you have to sit a whole year. Some schools you might lose that year, other schools you might just be academically redshirted. It depends on the institution. So what should you be doing? Well, we've talked about it, all those things, right? Register for the NAIA, for the eligibility center. Again, talk to your high school counselor. She or he can help you do that, your AD. After your junior year, make sure you have like a transcript. This is important, sent in. By the way, these are not free. I think it's like $100 or so every time you do this. And any school you attend, whether you transfer from one school to the next, make sure that every single test scores or transcript or report card is sent to the NCAA or NAIA. And then again, when you're taking your ACT or SAT, you can ask them to send your score to NCAA or NAIA. It's real simple. There's a program called Parchment. You can just go online and say, I want my transcript sent to as many schools as possible, and it will send that transcript to those schools for you. So those are the things that you should start thinking about your junior year. Don't wait until you graduate to start the process, because the process takes a while. You might miss maybe a week or 2 of your actual season before you can get eligible or cleared by the NAIA and NCAA before you can play. So make sure you do that. Again, just like it's telling you in your junior year. And then obviously your senior year, I'm assuming by then you know for a fact that you're going to be in the top half of your class, your GPA, your ACT score, just make sure that our final copy is sent. And once you do that, by the time you actually visit the school, the coach might be able to tell you if you're eligible or not. But if you've been following everything we talked about, you will know whether or not you're eligible to play. So what do you need to know? You need to know all these things. Again, don't be afraid to contact your high school counselor and tell them, I'm trying to play in college, and I need you to help me with some of these things over here. Again, we're talking about the deadline. Don't be late, because if the later you are, the longer it will take for the NCAA to clear you. It's a process. There's millions of students applying to this eligibility center. Even international students that are applying to this thing. So it takes a while for them to process all your paperwork. So the later you are, the later it will take them for them to process your paperwork. Again, back to your recruiting advice, right? The boys, I mean, they said it well. All three of them now over here said it well, right? Be proactive. You just have to be. You can't sit in your hands and expect mom and dad to do it, or you the coach. Okay? Use emails, give coaches a really good contact email on their own so they can email you back. Don't let them email dad and then dad forward the email to you. As a coach, I tell you right now, I don't like that. As I'm recruiting, I like to be in contact with the player themselves, because I think it's the best way. Because you can get a feeling from a player's email or from a player's visit if they're interested or not. Sometimes the parents are more interested than the actual kid. And the kids are trying to please the parents, and so they would say something to you that they're not really sure of. Do some research. Just like we said, do some research. You got to do some work. Get on the internet. Use your time wisely. Again, be on time. Ask questions. Feel free when you go on a visit and you sit with a coach. Ask as many questions as possible. Because if you think about it, at the end of the day, every time a coach gets a recruit, that coach is getting money for his program, believe it or not. So feel free to ask questions because you're an asset to that program. Some of your sources, resources to contact, we talked about it, right? Asking coaches, counselors, college coaches. I mean, all those things, there's a website you can actually follow. I'll make sure that we send this out to the club lorry so that you guys can have all the information. But everything that we talked about today, it's online, everything that we talked about. So you can go in there and do some more research to see all the schools that are in what division and schools that you're interested in, so that when you make a decision, you're making the right one. So now I'll open the floor to some questions. If you have any questions about anything we talked about today, look at this. I'm pretty on time. It's almost 8 o'clock. Are there any questions, anything that we talked about that, stuck in your mind, or you want me to clarify or anything? Anybody? Yes, sir.
The showcases.
Yes.
How do you find those or locate those? Are there links through the club website?
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to mention that. We are going to start putting showcases on our club website so you guys can actually see them. Keep in mind, when we apply to showcases, we're going to get approved. And it depends on your team's record. Okay? But it's our goal as a club to make sure that our teams that are good enough to play in showcases are playing in showcases as often as possible. Here's the thing though, a showcase is a bit expensive than a regular tournament. Okay, so as long as the team is willing to pay for the showcases, I have no doubt the coaches will be more than happy to make that work. And the showcases, to be honest with you, it's not as long as a regular tournament. So for example, the showcase that we play in the Wixom, it's like a 55-minute running clock, right? Whereas if you go to different tournaments, the Canton Cup, you get 235 or 240, what have you. Well, you are getting lots and lots of coaches. I can't say that enough. You are getting lots and lots of coaches attending the showcase tournament. Another thing that I want to mention is when you are going to a showcase tournament, your team has to have a bio of every single player on your team going to that showcase tournament so that it's available for any college coach who will be interested in watching or who are watching your game. So your manager is walking around with a big book in her hand with everybody's information. John is a sophomore, his GPA is that, he's doing this and this. So she would give that to every single player, every single coach, so that when they're watching the game, they can tell who they're watching and they can contact you or contact the coach if they're interested. That's something that all of our coaches and managers will be doing from now on. Now, with that said, if you know that you have been admitted to a showcase tournament, usually you get a list of schools that will be attending that tournament from the showcase tournament, right? From the administrator of the showcase. You can look at that school. If the school that you're interested in is on that list, don't be afraid to email that school yourself and say, hey, I will be at this tournament. My jersey number is this. I will be playing this position. I'll be available to talk after the game if you so wish to talk to me. I'll be able to talk. So again, don't depend on your manager or your coach, again, to get that paperwork ready for you. You yourself can email those coaches, let them know you're going to be there. And that's something that a lot of our guys did the past couple of seasons.
Simpson, can I connect on that?
Yeah.
For example, we took like the teams like 14 and 15 years old on showcase tournaments, for example. Coaches, like college coaches, always saying that they're gonna be there and they're gonna watch the games, so they never happen. So usually they're watching the players, they're like 16, 17 or 18 years old. Even 16, I'm gonna say they are not showing up and watching more than like 17 and 18 years old. So sometimes, like, you know, we like to take the teams in the younger age group, but more focus is the older age group between like 17 and 18 years old. So that's something for, I think, like, you know, coaches have to know when they take the teams. Sometimes it's the risk. It's not going to be recruiting by 14 or 15 years old. They usually 17 and 18 have more chances.
And the reason why I mentioned those the tournaments and what's some of those showcases is because the majority of our players in our club, that's where they're going to get recruited from. Okay, some of those, for example, I give you example, the academies teams, they don't usually do those showcases because the coaches actually go into the training sessions to recruit them from there. So, you know, those showcases are good for our club to attend if you get admitted to attend the showcase tournament. But it's a good source of resource to get recruited from if you are interested in playing college soccer. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
So there's a lot of ID camps around. I know I'm on like an email list. I get emails about those.
Excellent.
How do you know what's a good one
That's
versus
a good
not?
question. I'm glad you brought that up. So I've had many parents email me or forward me an ID camp brochure. And they're assuming that they're invited, it's like a special invitation for them alone. A lot of programs like ours, we have to raise money to help with some of our costs, to travel for meals when we travel on the road, to go on a spring break to play some games. So we have to raise money. And one way of doing that is to have those ID camps sometimes where kids will come in. So it's not a special invitation, it's just a general invitation to the public to see how many can come. Now, will they find some players come in there? Of course they will. But be careful, unless it actually says your name on it. Like, you can tell when it's actually addressed to you personally, okay? Most of those ID camps, unless you just talk to the coach or the assistant coach, those invites are not meant for you. Are they bad? No, they're not bad. Some of those ID camps are good. Like Aiden said, you don't want to go to Michigan State ID camp. That's just a money maker, okay? Michigan State, those are ready to pick up players from ID camp, and not the person in the bubble, but they don't do that. They know where to go look for players, and ID camp is not one of them, okay? But here's the good thing about ID camps. There are other coaches there from smaller schools. So for example, if Michigan State has an ID camp, it will have smaller schools there as well that are looking for players. Because everybody knows that if Michigan State decided to have an ID camp, or Michigan for that example, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, coaches will go because they know the school's going to draw a lot of players. And they know that they have a chance of picking players from in there that are not going to go to those schools. So again, I mean, you just got to pay close attention to the invitation. Some of them, most of them are just general. Be careful which one you go to. Again, this ID camps, when they do send you the email, they list the schools that will be attending the ID camps, or the coaches, I should say, from what school they'll be attending. And there are some ID camps that are pretty good. There's usually there's some ID camps at Ultimate Soccer Arena in Pontiac. That's a good one to go to as well. They have one in Royford that I attended 3 weeks ago. That's another good one to go to. So we go to this one where we can find players for a small school like the school that I coach at. Good question, Larry. Did I answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
I have another camp that, you know, I know my players went and it was very good and beneficial because they individually being trained by head coaches of the colleges and they have a lot of feedback and it was kind of a small group training and they have a lot of feedbacks and that's called Exact Soccer Camp. So it was very good and very beneficial, for example, for my teams I coached. So I recommend that one. Also what I think, like, you know, like Samson said, if you see the emails saying your name, but also like, you know, when you go to the camp, if it's gonna be like beneficial, it's not gonna be a coaching by 80 like kids and then you have like 2 or 3 coaches. So if they are like groups set up by the players, like 8 to 10 players, so that's the one for you. You would like to participate, so you have a lot of attention.
Forward these emails to your coaches, asking for their opinion. What do you think?
Yes.
This is the one to go to. I think nowadays on the ID camp itself, there's a website you can go to and get some of the feedback from the previous attendees who tell you it was a good ID camp, it was worth it. You can look on that and make sure that it's worth it for you. So don't be afraid to do your research before you go to this ID camp. I can't say this enough. I think if you think you're good enough and your coach is saying that you're good enough to play college, there is a college out there for you to play. Again, you can't tell your coach that you want to play at Michigan when you're not going to play at Michigan State. I don't know why I keep saying Michigan. Michigan soccer hasn't done anything in the past 10 years. So maybe Michigan State is okay, but again, the Division I schools, you know, there are some Division I schools, and there's Division III schools that can actually be a Division I school just because of the talent. No doubt about it. There's some NAIA schools that can be Division I schools. You just got to do your research, see what the program is going to see if the program is established. But I know it is a thing that, you know, it's no doubt if you graduate from Michigan, I mean, it's Michigan State, you graduate from there, it's prestigious, that's true. But there's nothing wrong with going to a small school and enjoying yourself as a soccer player. There's nothing more enjoyable than being a student athlete in college. Okay? And you do get a lot of things. You get free food. Okay? You get free tutor. Usually you don't have to pay for the tutoring. You get free tutoring as a college athlete. I mean, there's a lot of upside in being a college athlete for sure. Research does show that college athletes are more successful in school than regular students. Look it up. I'm sure you're all here because you are interested. Everybody else is watching Michigan play basketball. But we will make sure we send this out to everybody. My information is on the club website. I'll be more than happy to talk to any of you guys. And girls, Marygrove College, if you want to play, I'm looking for players. I'll reach out to you, I'll text you. As soon as you, sophomore year, I start texting you guys. So you're going to join us in Detroit and play soccer. Any other questions from anybody? No?
I would like to tell something to the parents, something to think about. It's so hard to explain you right now as a coaches. The kid, it's so important to not pressure the players, your child, to play college soccer. Because when you're doing that, so many players in our program, before Simpson and I, there's the players, when they turn 17 or 18, they don't want to play soccer anymore because they hear for 6 years from you, you have to play soccer, you're going to have a full scholarship, you're going to have great grades, you're going to play soccer, and they end up not playing. So my recommendation to you, I believe saying something the same thing, let them be. The more you pressure them, the less they're going to play. Trust me. I have players from 13 years old, what I coach, they're 19 now, and I have 6 of them, they can play D1, I guarantee you that. They don't have even interest at all. I'm begging them to go and play. They say, oh, I don't want to play. I really don't want to play anymore. And they can't play. From 15 players I have, they all make varsity soccer for first year. And they end up not playing just because of that. So be careful how you approach them. Just let them be, let them think about it, and they know what they want later on. Also, the one story I have was one of the players playing for me. They end up, the coach drove for 5 hours on the snow just to see him how he played. He was so impressed. He wants him to play, but unfortunately he was terrible GPA. He was not a good student. He couldn't play. So to the players, you have to get good grades if you want to play soccer. You have to. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to play. So,
Yeah, getting good grades make it very attractive
yes.
to recruit. I know that's the first thing I'm looking for as far as recruiting. So at the end of the day, you are investing a lot of money. Let's say your kid played, soccer for 10 years in the club, and let's say it costs $1,000 every year, and that's 10 grand. Why not? He was able to play college soccer, he wants to do it. Why not? Save yourself some money, do their research, find the right fit, get that degree, and enjoy yourself in college. It's 10 after. I gotta take my college bond boys to dinner. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate you guys being here. If you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Thank you.
Thank you.